This is Destruction All-Stars. We're on PlayStation 5, taking a look at this interesting exclusive title for the platform. What we're getting here is a dynamic 4K resolution. It doesn't quite hit native while you're playing at 60 FPS with HDR support. So this is a multiplayer focused car derby type smashing game. It's a little bit of a different experience, and I can't say that I'm actually much of a fan of this one. It's a little bit boring, but it is quite gorgeous. Like visually, it actually is a really great looking game. And when you do get destruction going after chasing each other, trying to bind and catch up to someone to hit them lightly where it basically usually misses, you can get some really satisfying destruction and little particle effects going on, which are cool. So it's a game where there's 60 players in a lobby, and then there's like this allotment of heroes. So these heroes all have different abilities, all have a special car that you can pull out at a certain point, and then you're just kind of playing as this wacky, really diverse selection of different weird characters. And yeah, they've all got little personalities to them, but I really wasn't huge into this either. I did really quite like the fox type lady because she's got this cool burn ignite effect. So you're kind of hopping into matches, jumping into vehicles, and then trying to hit each other. There are a few different game modes, so we just got kind of notes on this. Mayhem, which is like a classic deathmatch, playable in solo or teams. You're just wrecking each other. Carnado, which kind of does a more intense like a gear earning thing, and then there's a giant Carnado in the middle, which is like an electric thing that wrecks cars. Solo and teams. Then there's Stockpile, which is a team-based mode where you're kind of collecting stuff, a capture and control mode. And then there's Gridfall, which is one of those ones where the floor kind of falls out, and it's all about being the last one left. So outside of those modes, there's also like a challenges area. There was a free challenge option, but then if you wanted others, it seemed to be a microtransaction that you had to pay for or get credits on top of that in order to access. These unlock new things. And then there's, of course, a store with, like, there's lots of cosmetic options for your various characters. But a lot of it, some of it you earn in-game, but a lot of it is you gotta do extra microtransactions. It's the most free-to-play like game I've ever seen that isn't really necessarily a free-to-play because it's a free launch title on the PS Plus service. It's a very odd sort of stance on this one. There's also, I guess you could say, the option to play this all like locally against bots if you want to do that. So that's kind of a nice touch if you don't want to play online with others and you like the game type, and you can control the AI options too. It's just really not that great of a game. Like, honestly, going back to it, it was really, really boring. I didn't really have a great time with it. It was kind of fun at times when you were moving around, but a lot of it is really basic and sort of hard to get those hits in. Like, even when you hit people, it doesn't seem to really do much damage to them. And I understand there's a certain element of momentum and having different abilities and stuff like that. But, you know, you get those cool smashes and it's just kind of like, eh. And a lot of the time you're just driving around randomly on a few maps. I think there's only like 3 or 4 or 5 maps in the whole game. There's not much here. And they all look the exact same visually. They've got these cool floating things that come in and out, like platforms where you can get vehicles and kind of silly parkour through them for whatever reason to get to a vehicle. I thought that was kind of stupid. I mean, like, I guess it's to keep people off the ground so they don't get hit by cars, but you're not really trying to hit people that often because it's harder to kill them. It's just a very weird kind of game that doesn't necessarily come together. And I was actually kind of looking forward to this because I like these smaller multiplayer games where it's a little bit, you know, frantic. It's something you could play a little bit of and have a good time with it and jump on occasionally. You know, things like Fall Guys, where they're not necessarily the best kind of games, but it's a fun game. It's a weird game. It's a quirky game you could jump into and, you know, have a blast with, whether you're playing alone or with others. And this one, it's just kind of really, really boring. Like, I just could not get into it. I tried, and it just really wasn't that spectacular of an experience. It's also a weirdly quiet game. So when you're in the menus, it's bumping, there's music playing, and then you get into a match, and it's just quiet. And they've also, I guess, disabled the in-game chatting system, because with the controller, you could just chat, and yeah, I guess it's been an issue or something like that. Anyways, moving past that, the controller does react decently to it. It's not the best implementation of the controller that I've seen thus far. It does make some sounds, not a whole lot. The haptic feedback is decent. I'd say it's pretty good implementation in this one for how you feel when your car's moving around. But again, I've seen a lot better. You look at Astro, and that one's really, really cool. But yeah, this is like the weirdest kind of... It feels like a complete free-to-play game, and they were going to try like charging cost for this one right off the bat. It would have been just dead on the water, because it's really, really not that great. I will not be returning to this game, I don't think, at any point in the future. Like, I feel like I'm really negative towards it, which is what I'm sounding like, but I just really could not get behind this one. I did try, because I like this kind of style of, you know, car derby, smashing, destroying, but there's not really a lot of that, and it almost feels like this game should have had like a racing mechanic to it, almost, as odd as that sounds. I know it's not necessarily in the title or what the goal of this game is supposed to be, but it would have been cool as sort of a little bit of a Burnout type game, if that makes sense. I would have liked that a lot more than what we have here, because it just doesn't do the derby thing well. The presentation is really pleasant and clean. It is, again, visually very impressive. It definitely feels like a next generation, you know, kind of car-based game, just in terms of the particle effects and everything like that. At the same time, I'm just not really blown away by it. I didn't really feel that there was any game modes that I really did enjoy. And then limited content, so you're doing the same things over and over. It is the weirdest situation for this game to do this strange, like, initially it was going to be a cost, and then they threw it on the PS Plus, but if you were looking at it as being, you know, kind of a full price game, I'd be like, are you crazy? I'd honestly just be absolutely shocked by this one, because it just really is not at all worth that. I mean, it looks cool, like, visually, but just gameplay wise, it just felt really boring. It was very numbing to play. I didn't find it very exciting. It was just strangely and bizarrely quiet while you're playing in a match. I don't know why they didn't use any of the music from the menu in the game. It doesn't make any sense. No real direction. The commentary over top of it from, like, the announcers really didn't seem entirely into it either. And it just kind of, I don't know, doesn't really quite hit the mark for me. I was not a fan of this one. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit disappointing, because again, I think, you know, aesthetically they've nailed it, but just gameplay wise, it's just no fun for me. Like, I don't know, and I like this type of racing game a lot more than even regular racing games. I love the derby smashing thing, because it's so cool when it's done well. And here I felt like I was constantly chasing after people, and then nothing would come of it. It was a whole, like, 10 minutes of matches and just being lost. Also, some issues with matchmaking too that I had. It was very strange, but meh.